Hi guys, so in this week's video, the book hermit leaves the house. Hi guys. Okay, so my intro today is in the car because I've come to the book farm. I don't know if you can see. Excuse the state of my car. I live in the country, well, near the country. Okay, so that like whole barn all the way round and all the way back is books. Okay, so I've got here a bit early. They're not open till 10. So I'm sat doing my intro in the car. And here we go. So this week's video is going to be my first ever wrap up, which I'm very excited for because I have had, well, in some ways I've had the best reading month, and in other ways I've had the worst. So normally I read anywhere between like 16 and like 22 books ish, and this month I've been slumping a bit, so I've been reading a bit slower and just not really been in the mood. I've been a bit distracted, and you know how it is. So but in other ways, in the best ways, the books that I have read have been amazing, so I can't wait to talk about them. So yeah, I will probably show you around a little bit in there when I go in, and yeah, enjoy the video. I'm not going to tell you about every single book that I read this month, in February, sorry. But I am just going to highlight the NetGalley ones that I read, and also my favourite books of the month. So yeah, let's get on with it. So the first book that I would like to chat about, that I read in February, was a NetGalley e-arc that was I was very lucky to receive, and it was called The Erstwhile Tyler Kyle. Matt, could you put a picture of the cover? It's actually a cool cover, a really cool cover. I did DNF this, and I will just read my review, just so you understand. It's a horror, and the publishing date was the 13th of October 2023. So you can get this, and I have actually purchased a copy of this, so that I can reread it when I'm in a better like space for it. So Tyler Kyle is a YouTuber with his friend. They investigate cryptid sightings together, and although Tyler knows that his friend is heterosexual, he has confusing feelings of romantic love towards him. After they drunkenly kiss one night, Tyler decides to investigate a video he was sent by their stalker, revealing a link with his long-lost mother. However, when he arrives on the island, he is overwhelmed by the ominous feeling by ominous feelings and odd occurrences that seem to be going on the island. Will Tyler find the answers he wants, and will he figure out his own sexuality questions along the way? This review was, I stopped reading this at 40%. So this review only takes into consideration that first 40%. This novel is written in the first person and is overtly stream of consciousness. Although this is not my favourite style of writing, I did love the amount of queer representation there was. There were references to Canadian folklore, which was fun too. If you enjoy books that feel like a fever dream, this is definitely for you. There is something about Tyler and the plot that makes you want to know what happens and find out what's going on. And while I did not find it funny or particularly atmospheric, I can see how a lot of people would get that aspect. I also wanted to know the outcome of Tyler telling his friend how he feels. However, all of this was not enough to keep me reading this time. While I could see the potential of the plot and the characters, I felt it would have benefited from a couple more rounds of editing. Tyler read like he was a teenager instead of in his 30s, and potentially a sensitivity reader due to the nature of many of the themes. For example, references to gender, sexuality, race, religion and ethnicity were all bandied around in a very jarring way at times. That was not always called for or appropriate, in my opinion. I wonder if this was intended to be social commentary. If this is the case, I support it 100%, and this is why I am still making the effort to review a book I did not finish. More editing, I feel, would work out the disjointed nature of the sentence structure and flow. As a reader, I wanted to be shown more and less of the telling. Yep. Okay, so that's my thoughts on it. There was a lot about it that I really enjoyed, and that's why I'm going to go back and give it another go, because I don't want to be unfair to it in any way, shape or form. And normally I don't review books that I didn't finish for obvious reasons, but I did feel that this had enough merit to still have something to say on it. And I definitely would recommend people giving it a try. If anything about it seemed interesting to you, definitely give it a go. So the next book I want to talk about is, and I may have bought a copy of this one. This is also from NetGalley originally, but it came out and I managed to get a copy of it. So I'm very, very happy to have read this book. This was a 5 stars for me, easily. Call of the Sea by Emily B. Rose. I will grab the review I did of that as well. Okay, so description of the book is: Kenna is many things, but her family make her feel as if she's only there to take over the kingdom. One she loves, but does not feel at home in. She spends her days trying to be as invisible as possible, while also yearning to go out to sea. Kenna is drawn so strongly to the sea that she has been told is dangerous and has been kept locked up in the castle grounds since she was 5 years old. Kenna is told she has to marry to save her kingdom from war, but she knows she can't, and when a blast from her past turns up, her life takes some twists and turns she could never have preempted. This book has my whole heart. I am so grateful for the opportunity to read this advanced copy. I now need to purchase the physical copy. Physical copy to reread and annotate. However, for anyone reading this for the first time, I would make sure to check the trigger warnings. Although I will say that Emily B. Rose does handle these topics with absolute respect and understanding that I haven't otherwise seen done quite as well as this. I really appreciated the fat human representation, and it was refreshing to see a setting that is accepting of people as they are, other than some fat phobia and the pressure placed on Kenna to marry and take over the kingdom. There is beautiful Scottish Gaelic language and influence in this world that was a pleasure to be immersed in. The relationship between Kenna and Tristan is beautiful, not to mention the relationship that happens later in the book. They are funny, sweet, and there were many times I got face ache from smiling. I also appreciated the way the characters' physicality was described, and I felt that the experience of fat phobia was pretty accurate. I have never read a book where I have felt this seen and represented. I also really loved the merman twist. So good. I'm sort of hoping for a sequel to this because I would love to know how they cope when things settle and the way confidence issues can't just disappear that quickly, and also what happens to the kingdoms and how they get on. I can't say more than that without spoiling it, but hopefully I've said enough to get you excited to read the book too. Okay, so the books that I read this month that I really loved, that were not from NetGalley. This one, Faebound. I read this one with a couple of friends, and like I don't know, I was super drawn to this when it first came out, and I wasn't really really in the mood for fantasy at all, but there was just something about this that drew my attention. And then I looked up the author, and I really enjoyed her posts on social media and things, so that made me even more excited to jump in. And I'll read the synopsis. Yiren was born on the battlefield, lived on the battlefield, and one day she knew she'd die on the battlefield. As a warrior in the Elven army, Yiren has known nothing but violence her whole life. Her sister Letor is trying to make a living as a diviner, seeking prophecies of a better future. When a fatal mistake leads to Yiren's exile from the Elven lands, both sisters are forced into the terrifying wilderness beyond their borders. There they encounter the impossible, the Fae court. The Fae haven't been seen for a millennium, but now Yiren and Letor are thrust into their seductive world, torn between their loyalty to each other, their elven homeland, and their hearts. And I mean, I very rarely read a book and annotate it the first time I read it. I tend to just read a book, but within the first page, I think actually, and the first page isn't the longest. It's only half the page of writing. Within that first page, I knew that I was going to want to annotate this. So it was absolutely fantastic. There are elves, there are fae, there are humans, and there are some magical creatures that I don't know how Saara El-Arifi even came up with. They are so, it's such an imaginative world. And I really enjoyed, for such a short book, which is unusual for fantasy, she really did a great job of really allowing you to visualize the world that they're in, and the creatures and the nature around, and it was just really fun to read. There were a lot of comical moments as well, and there is a found family aspect of it that I just really loved. I'm a bit of a sucker for found family, and yeah, I just really enjoyed it overall. There were a couple of little things that I felt at times it was a little bit rushed, and that it could have been a bit longer and it would have been fine. But I also see why it was shorter. I'm very much looking forward to reading the next book. I think it's going to be a trilogy, actually. I can't remember. It's either a trilogy or a series of some description. Yes, the first book, an enchanting trilogy, so it is going to be a trilogy. So yeah, and it's the first book I've read by this author, so I am definitely going to have to read more from her. The next book was a reread, and it was for Battle of the Girl Bands. I think all of the books that I read this month counted for Battle of the Girl Bands, which was good. And I also did Cliterature Readathon as well in the middle of the month. And that was super fun to do as well. It's the first time I've taken part in either of them readathons, and I highly recommend them. Okay, so this was a reread, One Dark Window. It was one of the host picks, I think. Yes, it was the host pick, because it wasn't the big overall read. And this is a special copy that I think I got from a Luma crate. Fairy Loot. I got this one from Fairy Loot, which I don't get anymore, but it is a beautiful. Let me show you the naked hardback. I hope you can pick up, because it is very dark, but there's actually quite a lot of detail in there. And then the synopsis for this one is, I was born with the fever, my blood dark as night. An ancient mercurial spirit is trapped inside Elspeth Spindle's head. She calls him the Nightmare. He protects her, he keeps her secrets, but nothing comes for free, especially magic. When Elspeth meets a mysterious highwayman on the forest road, she is thrust into a world of shadow and deception. Together they embark on a dangerous quest to cure the town of Blunder from the dark magic infecting it. As the stakes heighten and their undeniable attraction intensifies, Elspeth is forced to face her darkest secret yet. The nightmare is slowly, darkly taking over her mind, and she might not be able to stop him. One Dark Window is Rachel Gillig's stunning debut novel, a gothic fantasy romance about a maiden who must unleash the monster within to save her kingdom. And I mean, that is actually a perfect synopsis in my opinion. It was, I think I rated it 4 stars the first time I read it, and this time it actually went up to 5 stars. So I got even more out of it the second time reading it. Another 5-star book for me this month that I read for both Cliterature Readathon and Battle of the Girl Bands was Heartstopper Volume 5. For anyone who hasn't read, it's a graphic novel by Alice Oseman, and it is about Nick and Charlie and their friend group finding their way through teen years, and I think the next book they go off to uni. I think the next book is going to be the last one. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure about that. Okay, so Heartstopper was a 5-star for me. I'm not going to talk about it too much. It is a beautiful story. It is a graphic novel, so it's very quick to read. The art style is lovely. The story is lovely. The characters are to die for. Highly recommend. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to spoil it. Just in case you're one of the 2 people that hasn't read it yet. Okay. Now, this was a last second read for me because it's only little, and it was for Battle of the Girl Bands. Danny Dabbles had this as her host pick, and I don't know, I was just really drawn to it. I have really enjoyed T. Kingfisher's writing before, so when I saw that she had recommended this one, I don't know, I was just really drawn to it, and I thought, well, you know, it's only a little book. It's only it's less than 200 pages. It is 119 pages long. So, I mean, it was done within a couple of hours. I read that, and it was absolutely amazing. Actually, so far out of T. Kingfisher's books that I've read, this is, I think, my favourite one. What other ones have I got? Okay, anyway, this book, Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. This is, again, a 5-star for me. I think I gave it 5 stars. If I didn't give it 5 stars, it was like 4.5 or 4.75. It was up there. And the synopsis says, meat toadling. On the day of her birth, she was stolen from her family by the fairies, but she grew up safe and loved in the warm waters of fairyland. Once an adult, though, the Fae ask a favour of toadling. Return to the human world and offer a blessing of protection to a newborn child. Simple, right? If only. Centuries later, a knight approaches a towering wall of brambles, where the thorns are as thick as your arm and as sharp as swords. He's heard there's a curse here that needs breaking, but it's a curse toadling will do anything to uphold. Oh, honestly, toadling may well be my favourite character of all time. Maybe. I loved her so much. I felt like I could have been her. And like, I mean, call this egotistical. Probably is a little bit, actually, but I quite like seeing myself in characters. I don't know, it just really makes you feel seen and really makes you feel like you're a real human. That probably makes no sense outside of my head. But yeah, that's what I like. So there, deal with it. So yeah, Thornhedge, 5 stars, T. Kingfisher. I will probably link Danny below because I can guarantee she said it better. Guaranteed. Okay, now this book, Godkiller by Hannah Kaner. I promise we're nearly there. Okay, so Godkiller by Hannah Kaner. So this book has been an interesting ride for me. I bought this book from Waterstones because they had it on in Waterstones here in the UK. I don't know if this is like a general thing, but if you spend a certain amount of money at Waterstones, they have like a selection of recommended books. It's usually 5 books from 5 different genres each month that you can get for £5. and I had maybe spent enough money to get this for £5. And I don't do that all the time, but I had this time. And yeah, so but none of the all the options they had, I either had already read and wasn't that bothered about having a physical copy of, or I just wasn't that drawn to. And this was one of the ones that I wasn't that drawn to. But the person behind the counter was so insistent that I should give this a go that I thought, well, you know what, it's £5. It's not the end of the world if I don't like it. It is a beautiful cover, and you know, hey ho, let's give it a go. Hey ho, let's give it a go. So the synopsis says, "You are not welcome here, Godkiller. As a child, Kissen saw her family murdered by a god. Now gods are forbidden, but they still wander the kingdom demanding worship and sacrifice. Kissen makes a living killing them and enjoys it, until she meets a god she cannot kill. Skedi, the god of white lies, has bonded his soul to a young noble girl, and Kissen can't kill him without ending this girl's life. Kissen reluctantly agrees. Try that one again. Kissen reluctantly agrees to travel to the ruined city of Blenraden to demand aid from the last of the wild gods. But the city of the gods is no place for a godkiller." Dun dun dun. I don't know why I have to do that noise at the end of that synopsis every single time I've read it. And I may have read it in another video for someone else on another channel. Beatrice. Yes. So this was 5 stars. This was, again, it got to the top of the list. I didn't finish telling you why I ended up reading this. Okay, so obviously I wasn't that interested in it. Got convinced to buy it. And then, literally, within 24 hours of buying this, I saw two of my favourite, very well trusted booktubers. Yes, I'm looking at you, Leandra and Julie. You're linked below because this is your fault. And thank you very much. They both gave it 5 stars. I think they both gave it 5 stars. Either way, they rated it highly. And just what they both said about it, again, they said it better. I love the characters. I can't wait for the next book. I do have the next book. Will I get to it this month? I do not know. But maybe, hopefully. If not, it will be pretty soon in the grand scheme of life. But yeah, definitely recommend this. It's quite a short fantasy. So if you are new to fantasy, or you're sort of like wondering about whether or not fantasy's for you, this might be a good place to start. Same with Faebound, actually. I think both Faebound and Godkiller would be a good place to start if you haven't read fantasy before. And finally, you will be glad to know, finally, I reread Babel. I never know which way to pronounce that because I've heard it both ways. I'm pretty sure that the correct way is Babel, but again, I could be wrong. So Babel is set largely in Oxford, and the synopsis says, Oxford, 1836, the city of dreaming spires. It is the centre of all knowledge and progress in the world, and at its heart is Babel, Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, the tower from which all the power of the empire flows, orphaned in Canton and brought to England by mysterious guardian Robin Swift, thought Babel a paradise, until it became a prison. Excuse me. But can a student stand against an empire? Well, I reread this as a read along with a bookstagrammer that I like. I will link them below. And she has a lot of books on her bookstagram that I either have read and really enjoyed or are very intrigued by. And I read this last year, and then when I saw that she was doing a read along on Storygraph, I thought, well, this would be the perfect time. I did start tabbing it, and then it was getting a bit close to the end of the month, and I had a lot to read. So I decided to just carry on reading it as it was without the annotations. So I will almost definitely be rereading this for a third time at some point. Not on a read along, and finish annotating it, because I really enjoyed the process of annotating this one. Yeah, it's super fun. And actually, a lot of people are intimidated by this one because partly because of the footnotes, and it makes it seem like, and because it's set in Oxford, and because it is an academic setting. I personally think that if anything about it draws you to it, give it a go, because it isn't quite what it seems. Yes, there is obviously a lot of academic speech, but a lot of it is either explained, or it doesn't matter as much if you don't understand what it means. I had to Google quite a bit just because I don't like not knowing. But if it doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother you. Like it's not going to bother you with this, if that makes any sense outside of my head. And actually, I on someone's sprints, they asked for people to comment the first line of the book they were reading, and this was what I was reading at the time. And the first line had completely shocked them. So I am going to read you guys the first line, just to give you an idea of what I mean by it's not quite what it seems. Okay, let me find the first page. So the first line is, by the time Professor Richard Lovell found his way through Canton's narrow alleys to the faded address in his diary, the boy was the only one in the house left alive. I mean, if that's not a great first line of a book, come on. Yeah, okay, so again, 5 stars. Both times I've read it, it's been 5 stars for me. I absolutely adore R.F. Kuang's writing. I've read Babel and I've read Yellowface and loved both. I have the Poppy War trilogy on my Kindle, and I hope to get to it sometime this year. But I hoped that last year as well. So, so we'll see. Time will tell. But that's it. That is my favourite books of February. I hope you enjoyed this different style of video that I've played around with this week. If there's any feedback on it, feel free to comment below. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. If you didn't enjoy it, please hit the didn't like it button. I'm fine either way. It makes no difference to me. I enjoyed making it, and hopefully you enjoyed watching it, but if not, never mind, not the end of the world. Yeah, that's that, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye.